The views and opinions expressed in The Fact Is with Hollis Grant are those of Hollis Grant and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Droids Canada Network. Droids Canada Network does not take responsibility for any content or position produced by Hollis Grant and his show. Listener discretion is advised.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you for tuning in for another edition of The Fact Is. I'm your host, Hollis Grant. And on this week's episode, as Canada is knee-deep in emergency orders to end the trucker protest, to clear the streets of Ottawa, to clear the borders, to stop the funding to truckers, we're going to be talking about some of the people behind the scenes in the Canadian government that support this type of behavior. Politicians that support India's right to protest freely, but don't recognize their own citizens' rights to protest freely. A government that accepts foreign money from China, accepts donations from China, but will not allow citizens of Canada to give to other citizens of Canada. To silence voices that do not agree with the current government. And one particular individual that's been standing in the shadows is Canada's Deputy Prime Minister, Chrystia Freeland. Chrystia Freeland, a former reporter, made her name for herself covering world events and getting involved with the World Economic Forum. We did a show a few weeks ago on the World Economic Forum, and now we're going to look at one particular individual, Chrystia Freeland, and her role within the World Economic Forum, and we're going to take a clip from Klaus Schwab and a clip from our favorite Canadian Member of Parliament, the up-and-coming rock star, the rocker of Northern Ontario, Charlie Angus. We won't be hearing from his dog Attila the Hun. Now we're going to go to the World Economic Forum, so weforum.org/people/Chrystia-Freeland. Or just type in WEF, and you can type in Freeland bio in Google, and you will see the page we will be reading from. The Honourable Chrystia Freeland is Canada's Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance. Miss Freeland was first elected as the Member of Parliament for Toronto Centre in July 2013. She was elected as Member of Parliament for University Rosedale in October 2015 and re-elected in October 2019. From 2015 to 2017, Ms. Freeland served as Canada's Minister of International Trade, overseeing the successful negotiation of Canada's free trade agreement with the European Union, CETA. From January 2017 to November 2019, she served as Canada's Minister of Foreign Affairs. During this time, she was a leading advocate for democracy, human rights, and multilateralism around the world. As Foreign Minister, she led and successfully concluded the renegotiation of the North American Free Trade Agreement between Canada, Mexico, and the United States. It is interesting to point out, just a side note from the article, that Miss Freeland is the person that wanted gender-neutral wording in the document. In November 2019, Miss Freeland was appointed Deputy Prime Minister of Canada and Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs. In this capacity, she led Canada's united response to the COVID-19 pandemic. She was appointed Minister of Finance in August in 2020. An esteemed journalist and author of The Deputy Prime Minister was born in Peace River, Alberta. She was educated at Harvard University before continuing her studies on a Rhodes Scholarship at the University of Oxford. After launching her career in journalism as a Ukraine-based freelance correspondent for the Financial Times, the Washington Post, The Economist, Miss Freeland went on to various roles at the Financial Times of London. She then served as deputy editor of the Toronto-based Globe and Mail between 1999 and 2001, before returning to the Financial Times as a deputy editor and then as the United States managing editor. In 2010, she joined Canadian-owned Thomson Reuters. She was a managing director of the company and editor of Consumer News when she decided to return home and enter politics in 2013. Ms. Freeland has written 2 books, Sale of the Century, The Inside Story of the Second Russian Revolution, and Plutocrats, The Rise of the Global Super-Rich and Fall of Everyone Else. Plutocrats has been an international bestseller and won the Lionel Gelber Prize and National Business Book Award. In 2018, the Deputy Prime Minister was recognized as Foreign Policy's Diplomat of the Year. She was also awarded the Eric M. Warburg Award by Atlantic Brücke for her achievements in strengthening transatlantic ties. And in 2020, she was awarded Freedom House Mark Palmer Prize in recognition of her years of work in championing democracy and human rights. She is a member of the Forum's Board of Trustees. So through her achievements, she is a member of the World Economic Forum Board of Trustees, the same forum that believes that you will have nothing and you will be happy. In fact, you will own nothing and you will be happy. A member of the Board of Trustees is the Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance. How can a person belong to a group of globalists, a group that wants one central government, also represent a sovereign nation? Now, if that's not strange enough for you, if that's not odd enough, we've talked about Klaus Schwab. Klaus Schwab runs the World Economic Forum. He is a voice for a one world government, one economy. Now, what does Klaus Schwab have to say about working with governments? Now, here's a clip in his own words addressing this question.
And I have to say, when I mention our names like Mrs. Merkel, even Vladimir Putin and so on, they all have been young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. But what we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets. So yesterday I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I would know that half of this cabinet, or even more half of this cabinet, are actually young global leaders of the World Economic Forum.
And that's true in Argentina, too. Wow.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's true in Argentina as well.
It's true in Argentina, and it's true in France now. I mean, with the president, who is a young global leader. But what is important for me?
So there you have it in his own words, that he's proud to have penetrated the cabinet. That over half of the cabinet, or at least half of the cabinet, supports the idea of the World Economic Forum. These are the people, again, that say you will own nothing and you will be happy. Now, at the beginning of the show, we talked about how our favorite rocker of the North, MP, rock star, Charlie Angus, well, how does he tie into this? Well, here's an interesting clip from the House of Commons in where Charlie Angus voices his concern. So we'll play that clip for you. Now, this is a Conservative Member of Parliament, Colin Carey, who's going to be asking the question about the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab about the same speech that you just heard. And here he is in his own words.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I listened to my colleague's speech. I had a constituent that wanted me to ask a question about outside interference to our democracy. Klaus Schwab is the head of the World Economic Forum, and he bragged how his subversive WEF, World Economic Forum, has, quoted, infiltrated governments around the world. He said that his organization had penetrated more than half of Canada's cabinet. And I was wondering, in the interest of transparency, could the member please name which cabinet ministers are on board with the WEF's agenda? My concern is the deputy.
Order. I know the member was in a really good question there, but the audio is really bad and the video is really bad as well. And I apologize. I don't know if the member. Okay, let's try again. The honorable member for Timmins James Bay.
Mr. Speaker, that member is promoting open disinformation. That's not debate. We have to call it disinformation.
We'll get into debate again.
Now, that voice at the end was good old rock and roll star Charlie Angus saying it's misinformation. So I'll ask Mr. Angus, how is it misinformation when the head of the World Economic Forum openly said that they have penetrated more than half of Canada's cabinet? More than half of the decision makers in government belong to the World Economic Forum and believe in the same goals as the World Economic Forum. But yet, good old Charlie Angus, with his dog Attila the Hun, feels that this is misinformation. So, Charlie, explain to me, how is that misinformation? How is that wrong? What was it that Klaus Schwab said? What did he mean then, Charlie? Enlighten us. Because you heard the leader of the World Economic Forum in his own words, unedited video, unedited audio, and you heard his response. But Charlie Angus wants to say that that's misinformation. Charlie Angus is an idiot. Charlie Angus also supported and voted for the support of the Emergencies Act to eliminate the truckers, to confiscate money, to name and shame individuals that donated to the cause. And Charlie Angus supported that motion. He supported it. He supported it, and he is on the side of totalitarianism. He is on the side of having government force you to believe a certain way, to think a certain way. Now, at the time of this show, the Emergency Act has been rolled back. Now, so what this means is no Freedom Convoy protester was charged with anything more severe than conspiracy to commit mischief. Conspiracy to commit mischief was the most severe. So how can it be justified that the Emergency Act implemented? But knowing this government, the Trudeau government, when forced to answer a question, they will not. When forced to act with morality, they will not. And questions will be unanswered. In the meantime, people like Chrystia Freeland and the rest of the World Economic Forum group will continue to push their globalist agenda on the sovereign nation of Canada. I'd like to thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of The Fact Is. I'm your host, Hollis Grant, and I hope you have yourself a great week.
Dan, what happens every Thursday?
That would be DCR Droids Canada Radio.
And what time is it out on Thursday?
That's from 9 till 11 p.m.
Dumb question, where do you find it?
You find that at accessradio.ca.
And what's the best part?
It's free.